The views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL. However, you're encouraged to like and share them on Facebook. It's time for Joanne's World of Nutrition, brought to you by Nutrition World in Fort Pierce and hosted by Joanne Seeger.
Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. I hope everyone's having an incredible morning. I don't know, there's some mornings that I just wake up and I feel like perfectly, ready for the day. And then others, you feel a little scattered. And as everyone well knows that have listened to me for a while, is I usually pick my topics through my dreams.
Really?
Yes, and I had we had a birthday party for my son Jonathan, his 16th birthday party on Saturday. And unfortunately, out of this group that was at the party, 5 of them had autoimmune issues, and predominantly rheumatoid arthritis. So, of course, last night I was like, menopause, arthritis. So, arthritis topic 1. Well, autoimmune issues 1. So that is today's topic. So I hope that's of interest to everyone, because the information that we're going to talk about today really can apply to everyone, whether or not they have an autoimmune disease, because unfortunately most autoimmune diseases are triggering people when they're older, but they start brewing very early in life. So I'm going to cover those details. So let's do our breathing exercise and get right into it. So if there's any newbies listening, welcome to the show. I really appreciate you spending some time with me. And so we're going to do an exhale out of all the drama, stress of the morning, and then we're going to do 3 turns of breathing in through our nose, hold for 5, and exhale for 5, only through our nose. Please, no mouth breathing. All right, you ready, Cliff?
We're standing by to stand by. Now, everybody, close your mouth. Let all the negativity out. Let go. And get ready to inhale. Ready? Okay, begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Release. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Release. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One more time. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Release. 2, 3, 4, 5.
Thank you, Cliff. That felt amazing. As always, I strongly recommend you do this all day long.
Breathing is good for you.
Yeah, deep breathing. So autoimmune disease, really, really tricky. And as I was driving here, I actually had some memory flashbacks, which do not happen often to me. I joke around that my memory is very selective. I really try to live in the now, and I think that thinking has gotten to the point where sometimes I forget my roots and where I came from and why nutrition is so important to me. But this topic, when I was doing research for today's show, really brought up some really interesting facts. So I want to cover a few of those right now. So for instance, right now, Dr. Gundry's book, The Plant Paradox, is so popular. And in his book, the premise is to avoid gluten and nightshade vegetables and certain legumes, and which I find so interesting because when I went to school for nutrition, it was a very progressive school in Boston, and their thoughts were not of the norm. So they were saying the same exact things as Dr. Gundry was saying 30 somewhat years later, which kind of made me think, a lot of the things that I learned in that school and through all the people that I worked with right after that, just now are being talked about in the medical establishment. So my listeners, I really hope you keep an open mind for the information I'm going to cover today, and know that nutritionists were talking about these things over 30 years ago, trying to get mainstream America on board with their thinking, but it did not come across until 20 years later. So I think that's a shame. So I think if we all maybe have an open mind, the ability to believe that things do change and evolve, we can really get better. We don't have to be suffering so badly. And so, really, that's a premise. So, one of the things I'm going to discuss in detail is about probiotics and gut health when it comes to the immune system and autoimmune diseases. And I remember when I first started helping people back 30 years ago, there was no doctors that I could find on board with this thinking. None of them believed in good bacteria or the microdome or the gut health. It was extremely rare. Once in a blue moon, there would be a gynecologist that I would come across that would say, "Oh, after I give you this antibiotic, just eat a few yogurts." But again, that was even rare. Now it's common practice. You hear all the leading researchers talking about gut health. They're calling it the gut and the microdome as the second brain. That's how important it is. So it took a long time for them to come on board with the thinking that nutritionists were already discussing for many years earlier. The problem is that sometimes the medical side of it wants the black and white. They want the science. They want the studies. Well, we all know studies cost so much money. Yes, they use mice, but even the mice cost money. And I would think for autoimmune diseases, when you really understand where they're coming from, it would cost so much money and there would be so many variables. I don't see how it ever be possible, because all the research shows that every human being is different. Their microdome is different. Their nurturing through their life, their emotional health, everything is different in every human being. So how could you do that type of test? So really, just again, an open mind with this information, and you can maybe implement some of the things, but just be patient with them, give them time. I know sometimes when we go through life, we want that quick fix, and believe me, I wish more than anything that the cure for autoimmune diseases for all my family members that are suffering, I could just hand them a bottle and say, okay, take one a day. But there's no medication that does it, and there is no one supplement. So if you see any hype on Facebook or social media that promises that, it really is not true. And the drugs that are offered right now by rheumatologists and autoimmune specialists, they all have very, very bad side effects. So again, I hope this information helps you or someone you love. And as always, I believe that it starts in your mind. So if you have, an open mind and a belief system that will give this a try, that's all I'm asking. Just give it a start. All right, so autoimmune diseases. We got a lot of them. 80 million people in America. 80 million. So I think we're talking a lot of people with autoimmune diseases. And it's like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis. There is Crohn's disease. So there's so many. But like I mentioned in other shows, everything, the root of all illnesses starts with inflammation. Well, that's easy to say and do, but then when you look into the information about inflammation, it's like everything causes it. And like my husband said this morning, well, then what are we supposed to do or eat? It seems like everything causes the inflammation. But it's not necessarily true. Everything doesn't cause it. It's just, it seems that the things that don't cause it take more effort to think about, to do, to buy, to cook, to create. And we are definitely running around in a country that's fast-paced. The technology is basically just making us kind of spin wheels and we're on to the next wheel before we even finish the last wheel. And we're going a little bit crazy with all this. So we think of ourselves as these smartphones that just with a click of the button can go on to the next task. And we weren't built that way. We were built for, calmness, peace, harmony, being focused and nurtured by one another. And I'm afraid that that's not really what's happening now. Another example that I see, just in my own life is that we are all what everyone knows is happening. We're all basically becoming these phone zombies or iPad zombies, and we're constantly watching someone else's life versus living our own. And my daughter, she's 9 and she got a cell phone from her dad. And I saw her last night as she was falling asleep, watching a program about someone else's life and how much interest she took in it. And versus maybe reading a book and creating her own imagination and, drawing or things that I remember doing at that age. So again, we could have a 10-hour show on what's happening to our younger generations with all these smart devices, but it is part of the autoimmune system, and that's why I'm bringing it up. There are, so of, say, the 20 leading researchers that since 2002, where they realized that gut health, microdome, is completely the issue with autoimmune disease, the emotional health of the patients is as critical as the diet. So that's a really big one to take in. One of the researchers actually pointed out that childhood trauma happening between 5 and 6 years old was a link with many of the patients. And without naming any names, I know 3 of my family members that are in-laws that have had that same experience, and they all have rheumatoid arthritis. So I have to agree with what this researcher shows. So how could a childhood trauma create an autoimmune disease? I have no idea. But we know the mind is a powerful thing, and our emotions and the expression stress will kill us. It is definitely true. If we're depressed, anxious, and stressed out, we do not have a healthy body. We do not live healthy lives. We usually make even worse choices. So we all know that part's true. But it's hard to really have the response to say that our emotional health is responsible for our physical health. That's a hard one to really take in. I know it is for me, because that means anything that comes up physically in my body or my friends or love's bodies, it's emotional health that's responsible for it. And that's a really hard thing to take in. But if you can just hear this information out, it will start to make sense. So autoimmune disease symptoms. So if you are one of the lucky ones that do not have any autoimmune disease and you're living your life pain-free, anxiety-free, panic-free, here are some of the symptoms that you might feel if you have the beginnings of an autoimmune disease. So fatigue, even after a long night's sleep, cold extremity or of the feeling of like a carpal tunnel in your hands or your feet, thinning hair, joint pain, sinus issues or allergies, rapid heartbeat, panic attacks. So these are some of the very common symptoms of autoimmune disease. You obviously can get tested for most of them, but the problem is some of the tests that are out there, it takes years for the tests to come up positive while these autoimmune diseases are getting stronger and I call brewing in your body. And like I mentioned earlier, most of the rheumatologists or physicians only have very, very harsh drugs to work with. That's what they were trained to work with, that have very, very serious side effects. And I really understand when it comes with physicians how the time that it would take to really go over with each patient, the emotional health, the dietary health, the environmental health. That would be a huge amount of time for each physician to take. So please take your health in and take it seriously, and you work with your physician and do the research so you two can work together to make a really, really good plan. All right, so some of the things that create imbalance in the body and the autoimmune diseases to start occurring is toxins in the body that the body can't handle, stressors, like I mentioned, emotional issues from the past, emotional trauma, diet issues, and microbes. Now, microbes is the one that I found the most interesting with the research. So, microbes, fancy name for bacteria. Now, this is what I did not know. So, through amazing technology starting in 2002, the reason why doctors started saying that, yes, good bacteria does exist, start taking probiotics, and they started changing their discussions with patients when it came to good bacteria is because they had the technology come about in 2002 where all of a sudden they realized that we had a huge amount of bacteria in our body, predominantly the good guys. Now, is everyone ready for this? We have up to 4 pounds of good bacteria in our bodies. Isn't that amazing? 4 pounds. Okay. Now, another leading researcher in Europe put it this way, that the bacterial genealogy in our body was 90% of our body. So our human DNA is about the size, would fit into the size of our toe, and the rest is bacterial. I mean, that's mind blowing. So you cannot argue. So if you want to say, oh, it's hippie health talk, that's how it used to be because we couldn't have the technology to see all these different species of bacteria and what they did in our body, but now we do. And it's like 90% of us, they're everywhere. So we can't ignore that. And this good bacteria, when it's in balance, keeps our bodies humming perfectly. And then comes into the question, well, my mother had this autoimmune disease, or my father, or my aunts, and I'm just getting their genes pass it on. Well, again, most leading big research institutes said it's not genes that pass all these things on. Well, then what is it? Why does all these people that I love have it, and now I have it? It's the microdome. That is passed to us through the birth canal. So isn't that crazy, right? And so now you hear all this insane talk about getting, fecal matter transplants for people that are really ill. They take someone's good fecal matter that has a really good microdome and put it into someone that's really ill to get them healthy again. Well, that is true because in the fecal matter, you have 60 to 70% good bacteria that comes out naturally. That's what helps draw out the toxins and the bad stuff. So your microdome, your gut health, your good bacteria is completely responsible for how your body is running. So the great news is technology has proven this. There's the answer. Well, the problem is everything that most of us have been pushed into our lives since the industrial age is processed foods, chlorinated waters, antibiotics, stressful lives, and those all kill good bacteria. So it's like most of all our habits, starting from the water we drink that's chlorinated and fluoride added into it, destroy good bacteria. Our children's, when they do go into the hospital, into their little incubator settings, it's sterilized. There are antibacterial wipes, antibacterial hand sanitizer. Like they're basically trying to make this sterile environment, but at the same time killing all this good bacteria. And I understand why the intent was there. But the problem is they made our immune system so out of whack and so off balance that now it doesn't know right from wrong. So it's really critical that we look at our gut health and our microdome as the thing that needs to be loved and nurtured the most. We have a caller, and then we'll get right back into it. Good morning, John. How are you?
Hi, good morning. I'm doing okay. I have a question for you. I have a niece. She's in Maryland, and she has Crohn's disease, and she's had it for a while. I know you touched upon that. You mentioned that it's one of the, I guess, the autoimmune diseases.
Yes. Okay.
Can you recommend something that would help her along in the way of nutrition or supplements?
Definitely. Well, the next part of the show, the next 30 minutes, it's all going to be the positives of what you can do for all autoimmune diseases, including Crohn's.
Okay.
But the problem is that, John, what I realize, this is where I really struggle with this, is that each person has to have the belief system to put all these things into their life, because there is definitely no one pill fix. And some of us really need to keep looking for that one pill fix, and it's not there, especially with autoimmune disease. So if you can kind of, Cliff always records my shows and puts them on YouTube after. Maybe send that link to her so she can hear the whole 30 minutes. Because if you kind of just say, oh, Joanne said a probiotic or this or that, and she goes to buy them, that won't be the whole answer. She'll need the whole spiel, if you know what I mean.
Sure. How do I log into your YouTube?
Okay, you go to YouTube, or just go to WPSLTV.com. That takes you to all of our YouTube stuff, and you can once you get in there, then find the one dated for today, and it'll be up tomorrow. Okay.
And John, I would be happy if you call the store. They can give out my cell phone number, and she can call me. I'd be happy to talk to her anytime about this situation.
That would be fantastic. I love your program. It's so informative and so interesting, and there's a lot of insight along with the advice that you give and the products that you recommend.
Thank you, John. That means a lot to me. Thank you for listening, and again, hopefully you'll get enough to get her interested in actually clicking on that YouTube show.
I want to tell Cliff that I agree with him when he said it's good to breathe.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah. We got to
always.
breathe. We got to breathe. Have an awesome day, John. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, that's the whole thing. That's a perfect example, is that all of us know someone that has an autoimmune disease, and autoimmune disease is costing our country more than cancer is. And if anyone, like my beautiful sister-in-law, who has the beginnings of, the joint tenderness in the fingers, and she is so scared. She is so scared of the progression of it and how rapid it's going to be. And she loves to cook. Oh my gosh, this woman, I remember her with her 4 kids, always in the kitchen making really healthy meals. And she has strived to always do the right thing. But if you look back in history where they say, trauma, stressors that sometimes are not even of your own doing, something that a parent did to you or a family member, abuse, that does stay in your microdome. And again, hard for me to understand how, but now it is proven. So emotional health is as important to this discussion as any supplement you could possibly take. So there are so many ways to deal with emotional health. So you have to find the right fit for you. I mean, I love journaling. I love reading. I love watching funny movies. I just love being positive. And I try to avoid, and a new word I'm learning, boundaries, to keep out negativity. So whatever you have to do, your first step in overcoming autoimmune disease is your emotional health. Call it forgiveness, call it meditating, call it reading scripture, praying. Whatever you need to do to find emotional health is the first step in everything that we're talking about today. There is so you have your bacteria, which I already mentioned now, about 4 pounds worth in your body, pretty much controlling the central nervous system. And I always picture my mom was a telephone operator for the hospital, and she had this humongous switchboard in front of her where she knew right where to put those little plugs when people would call in. And as a little girl, and I would watch her, I'd be amazed. I'd be like, Mom, how do you know so quickly where everything goes? And it's the same thing with these thousands of strains of bacteria. They all know where to go and what to do. So you just kind of have to have faith that if you give the body the tools it needs to stay in balance, then the bacteria will do every job it was meant to do. So let's start with the simple things. At home, stop using anything that's going to kill your good bacteria. So your hand sanitizer, your antibacterial soap detergents, especially in the shower. If you have anything that you're showering with that has antibacterial, you got to get rid of that, okay? It's really important that you keep this good bacteria alive and you don't keep killing it every day. If your water is chlorinated or has fluoride in it, reconsider your water source. We have a unit on our home that takes those components out of our water. And if that's not in your budget right now, you can buy smaller units for underneath the sink. And if you buy bottled water, I strongly suggest, you do the PCB-free plastic, which also kills good bacteria. And you think about maybe Fiji water, which another one of my guests mentioned really was the only clean water source in bottled water that he knew of. And he was definitely a good source of information. Okay. The other things to keep the good bacteria in check is actually what all humans need for survival. I think this list is a little comical, but I'm going to mention it because a lot of us, especially me, I'm a homebody come the summer. I mean, I'm like a bear hibernating in Florida because I hate the heat. But sun, fresh air, water, and rest are the 4 key components to keeping our good bacteria well. So sun, fresh air, water, and rest. I don't know if any of you guys think that this seems a little silly too, but how many of us are not doing those 4 basic things? So early morning sun, late day sun, nice brisk walk, nice deep breathing exercises as we're doing it, drinking water incrementally throughout the day. I always stress this. A lot of my customers say, Joanne, but when I drink water, it goes right through me, or I don't want to drink water because I have an issue with incontinence. It's okay. Drink small amounts. Even if it's 2 ounces of water every hour you're awake, you will be getting enough water. Or eat fruits or vegetables that have a natural water content in them. Cucumbers, celery. Right now we have beautiful summer fruits. Get the water in through your food. That way, if for some reason you just cannot handle drinking water, I know there's some people out there that do not like water, so you need to do the fruit and vegetables to make up for that. And again, small amounts throughout your day will not make the bladder be overactive where you feel like you have to go right to the restroom. And then rest. So if you're not sleeping well at night because of your autoimmune condition or your body's not in balance yet, get rest when you can. The middle of the day is a great time to turn all electronics off, take a break, and take 10 minutes and close your eyes and do some deep breathing exercise. That will help the body recover, bring the body back to homeostasis. So again, if you're not sleeping well at night, a nice solid 7 to 8 hours sleep, then it is a good idea in the middle of the day to get, a little downtime. So when you're off balance through, again, a stressful lifestyle or even an emotional trauma that happened when you're younger, your body's microdome is off. And the major food that feeds the microdome is fermented and cultured foods. Fermented cultured food have been in since the beginning of time in humans' diets. And we have completely, especially here in the United States, gotten away from that. Many other cultures have kept their fermented cultured foods in their lifestyle, like kimchi, sauerkraut, miso. Um, it's just here we've totally gotten away, and now we're trying to introduce it back into our processed food with gimmicky advertising. For instance, yogurt. Oh, has bacteria. Well, it's full of sugar and dairy, and those are the two major reasons that we have inflammation and autoimmune disease is sugar and dairy. So that totally defeats the purpose. Or they'll introduce one strain of animal bacteria like an Activia, which is such a joke. It's not even one of the good human strains of bacteria. So don't get fooled by these multi-million-dollar ad campaigns that are just trying to make a buck on you. Good bacteria comes from fermenting vegetables. If you want to buy them, all the gourmet health food stores do sell fermented vegetables. It costs a little bit more, but it's really cheap if you make it at home. Takes some YouTube watching. Matt and I still haven't acquired the skill, but plenty people do for budget sakes. So fermented foods, cultured foods will naturally give your body what it needs for a healthy microbiome. Okay, we have another caller. This is awesome. I love callers. Everyone call in. Love it. All right, Dorothy. Dorothy, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you.
Good.
I wanted to know what your opinion is of glycine. I have had some phenomenal results with that as an amino acid,
Yes.
helping with shingles pain and helping with neuropathy, and it's just amazing, and it also helps with sleep. So I just wanted to get your opinion on it.
Wow. Well, Dorothy, you're definitely more of a cutting edge listener than maybe others. So glycine, I was selling for I'm over 20 years. The Carlson brand is the one that introduced that into the supplement marketplace, and they actually, if I can recall, marketed it for the heart. And then it just, the popularity just kind of just went bye-bye, and so I stopped carrying it. But maybe you will ignite back its popularity with my listeners. So the glycine, how long have you been taking? And what Dorothy's talking about is an amino acid. It's called glycine, Glycine. And how many milligrams are you taking, Dorothy? Do you hear me, Dorothy? Oh, I think we lost her.
Oh, Dorothy.
Did we lose her? All right, Dorothy, if you want to call back, definitely would love for my other listeners to hear how strong of a dose you're taking. Oh, there you are.
I had the mute button on by mistake. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I've been known to do that. So how many milligrams a day are you taking, and how long?
I do 3,000 milligrams a day.
Okay.
I take it at night because it does promote restful sleep. So I take it at night. I got started on it when I was researching something for shingles pain for someone, and came across it with sweetamine, which is combined with stevia for sweetening. But I don't use sweeteners in my coffee or tea, so
Okay.
I didn't need the stevia. So I just went online and started researching Dr. Brend, and he had a YouTube on there about shingles pain. He didn't even know he had shingles until he felt the bumps on his back, because he'd been taking the glycine every
Oh,
day.
wow. And so he like suppressed it. So that is
Yeah.
Dorothy, that is awesome. I'm hoping that the listeners are Googling the word glycine right now. Like I said, I don't have it in the store anymore, and I haven't for probably a good 5 years because of the popularity stopped.
Well,
But
I had one person that I recommended it to. She's got rheumatoid arthritis, and she started taking 500 milligrams, and she was able to reduce her prednisone by 7.5 milligrams.
that, oh my,
And
I'm legally not allowed to be specific like you are. So thank you. This is great. I love spreading this message. So yes, and I'm
Well,
gonna go ahead.
I have to order mine on Amazon because I can't get it in any of the stores around here.
Yeah, you're right, because it's, we do unfortunately have to follow this rule of turnover. If it doesn't turn over fast enough, then we're losing money on the space and then we can't pay our bills.
Yeah, I
So yeah,
understand.
but yes, I mean, I order a bunch of stuff on Amazon. So get what you need to get your body well, but you might find this interesting. It sounds like you're a healthy-minded person that knows her stuff, but I'm hoping that after we take a break after this call, you can maybe see the other suggestions you can give to your friend with the arthritis, because if she's already getting that great results with the glycine, if she adds these other tips, the miracles can happen.
Well, that's what she called it. She said, this thing is a miracle, and she's got everybody in her family using
Well, I'll tell you, Dorothy, I always believe nothing is coincidence. So this information, I'm going to maybe bring some in and start repeating your story about 100 times, okay?
Well, it works. Doctors practice Band-Aid medicine these days. So,
Yes, unfortunately, yeah, that it is a symptomology system, and you'd obviously know it's like once you get on that hamster wheel, it's hard to get off because you're scared, you're in pain, and you just want help. So you're at the mercy of anyone that might give you an idea or two. But thank you for the information. I'm sure a lot of people are writing down that word glycine right now, and I will look into bringing it back into the store. So thank you.
Well, I'll be listening, so,
I'll mention it when it does come in, yeah.
Yes.
All right.
I've been getting the NOW brand.
Okay, I don't
It's
carry
like-
Now Foods, but there's nothing wrong with Now, but I don't carry their line, but I will search out the best possible one. Carlson was the leading one at the time, but I'll double check and make sure I get a good one in case you want to try mine.
Well, I will. I live in Stewart, so I don't always trek up to Fort Pierce.
Okay,
but-
well, it's okay. I love the stores in Stewart. We all support each other, so one big happy family. Thank you, Dorothy. I got to take a break
Okay.
now. All right, you have a great day.
Okay. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You're listening to Joanne's World of Nutrition, brought to you by Nutrition World in downtown Fort Pierce, US 1, between Avenue A and Orange Avenue across from City Hall. Joanne will be right back in about a minute and a half.
Hey, it's Dr. Ravi at Tradition Family Chiropractic. We are dedicated to serving you and your family with integrity, compassion, and innovative care through the most advanced chiropractic care ever in chiropractic history, encouraging your health and your family's health to its maximum potential on a regular basis. Call us today at 772-345-0060 or schedule online at traditionhealth.com for your free consultation.
Guiding the Treasure Coast in health, one person at a time. That's their motto at Joanne's Nutrition World, Suite 121, in the historic arcade building on US 1, downtown Fort Pierce. Joanne brings more than 25 years of experience in the natural health industry, right here to you. Take advantage of this free personal guide to wellness and good health. Meet with Joanne herself and get started. Nutrition World always provides you with the hottest new product lines, natural and homeopathic remedies, herbals, and best of all, expert advice from the people who care. Call Joanne at 464-3598, 464-3598, and learn the correlation between diet and great health. Stop in today. The expert guidance to health is always free at Nutrition World. Nutrition World, Suite 121 in the Arcade Building, US 1, downtown Fort Pierce.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast. Leaving.
We now return to Joanne's World of Nutrition with Joanne Seeger.
Hey everyone, again, happy Thursday. Thank you so much for joining me today. We are talking about the immune system and when it kind of gets a little angry and doesn't get the tools it needs and it starts being called a disease, the autoimmune disease. I really hate that. It's like one of those things that It's a system that means well and does well, but all of a sudden when we don't treat it right and it starts malfunctioning, then we, blame it and we suppress it, and then more problems happen. So thankfully, we are starting to look at it a different way and taking responsibility for our health. And again, it's never too late to make good choices. Even if you make a few good choices each and every day, more than you did the day before, is a step in the right direction. You don't have to be a perfect person living in a bubble. But again, it just starts with one new habit each and every day. And a lot of the times we wait till our symptom is so bad because we mask it every day through ibuprofen and Advil and all these things we do, and we numb it and with alcohol and other bad habits, and then all of a sudden we're surprised when we can't hold a cup because our hands are so bad and inflamed and in pain. So I'm hoping that all my listeners are not only making some healthy choices today, but telling loved ones and neighbors and coworkers that there's always hope, and to have faith and just make one right choice. So some of the major causes of your microdome, your gut health, or what they call the good bugs being destroyed, is the environmental things like I mentioned, antibacterial soaps, and then your chlorinated water. And as far as antibiotics, all antibiotics are against life. That's what they mean, and they kill all good bacteria. So you have to make sure, if you're choosing to take an antibiotic, whether it be in the hospital setting, from the doctor, you don't feel well, you must make sure it's totally necessary and that it's a bacterial issue. A lot of people, when they're suffering, they expect their doctors to give them antibiotics without really knowing full and well that it's bacterial and it's necessary. You will make your body, your gut health, which again, I just told you is running everything, you're going to basically kill it. It's like it's going into battle and it's going to lose. It's setting off like a nuclear bomb in your gut, and you're destroying all of those good bugs that are trying to work really hard to make your entire body, from your brain to your toes, work properly. So please do your research before you decide to take any antibiotics, and make sure it's absolutely necessary. For any of my female listeners that are on birth control pills totally destroy good bacteria too, as well as many other medications. But birth control pills are probably one of the worst. So consider that. All right, some other causes to really ruin the microdome is gluten. Now, everyone has been hearing about gluten like the last 10 years, gluten-free, but there's so much truth behind it. Gluten is, the bread today is not the bread that our grandparents ate. So if you're using their health as a marker for why you should eat bread today, you can't compare that. Their bread is not the bread we're having. The grains that we are making our bread products from now, our pasta, our crackers, our Cheerios, all these things are no longer healthy. It's not just the gluten. There's so many other reasons to avoid it, but gluten is definitely the number one reason of ruining your microdome health. Okay, and it causes a lot of gastric and digestional issues almost immediately in a lot of people. So why consume it? There's lots of gluten-free choices in processed food today. So if you need a small little cheat, keep in mind that processed is processed is processed. It doesn't matter if the label says gluten-free and organic. It's still processed. It's not good for you, but it's better to eat a processed food without the gluten if you're going to cheat anyways than to have it with the gluten. The next one is dairy foods. Now, dairy, and just like the meat industry, And there are people that say to me all the time, oh my gosh, my grandfather, my great grandfather, they lived to 100 and they ate lots of meat and dairy. Their meat and dairy was not raised the way ours is. So, for instance, when you raise cattle on grass, they have a lot of omega fats in them and nutrients that are highly absorbable. But if you feed them the conventional way, which is you load them up with tons of antibiotics, okay, which is what 70% of the antibiotic use in our country goes to the animal stock. So all the animals that we're being fed are given all those antibiotics, and then they're going into our system, and they're grain fed or even worse, byproducts of grain, and so no longer grass fed. So they do not have any reason to be in our body no longer. There is nothing usable and friendly about the meat or dairy product after it's been treated that way. Well, this information went mainstream thanks to social media, so many companies are cleaning up their acts. You'll see in all the supermarkets now grass-fed dairy products, grass-fed meat. Do your research. It does cost a little more, but the more people that buy it, the better these animals are going to be raised back the right way. And then there would be some benefit. So if you really love dairy and you're finding it's struggling just to even comprehend giving it up, there are aged cheeses that are grass-fed now and organic, that used in moderation would help the gut health and not hurt it. Same thing with the grass-fed meat. If you use small amounts, you're never meant to ingest more than 4 ounces of animal protein at a time. So you don't need to go to the steakhouse and order, a 16-ounce piece of steak. Just 4 ounces at a time. And, no bread, no pasta. And this is not about losing weight. This is about improving your microdome health. It's really interesting because they did a couple different studies with mice, and one of them was they gave them artificial sweeteners and they got very overweight, okay, on artificial sweeteners that supposedly people are using for weight, which our country's just getting more and more obese because artificial sweeteners destroy our microdome health and they do make you gain weight. So they took fecal matter from mice that had a good microdome and put it into the obese ones, and they went back to their original weight. So, with no calorie changes, just microdome changes. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Okay, where was I? All right, so we're talking about fermented foods. Okay, so we're talking about avoiding any commercialized animal products, eggs, chicken, turkey. Doesn't matter if the meat is dark or white. Has nothing to do with anything. You just want things that are raised properly and given the right food that animal is supposed to live on naturally. All right, so then you have processed food to avoid to have good microdome health. What does that mean? Well, pretty much 90 to 95% what's offered in our food supply stores is processed for convenience, for longevity, for pricing. There's a million reasons they thought in America and around the world we wanted this. Well, unfortunately, now our taste buds, our children, we are all used to this. It's like taking every cell and ounce of our strength to resist these things. But the truth is, if you want to get well, you have to resist these things. So to eat fresh vegetables, that would be number one. A small amount of fruits. Buy organic or local. Farmers markets are great resources for this. Again, a small amount of the properly raised protein like grass-fed beef, organic eggs, pasture-raised eggs. You want to stay there. Nuts and seeds. I know this sounds very limited, but this is to get your body well and your microdome better again. aged cheeses, kefir. But if you buy kefir from the supermarkets that are available here in the Treasure Coast, a lot of them, like yogurt, are loaded with sugar. So read ingredients. Don't go by the front of packaging. Please turn it over and read it. So many people come to me with protein drinks that offer so much good bacteria and all these different products, and the fronts look amazing using the words organic, natural, and full of good bacteria. But you go to the back and they're full of artificial sweeteners, animal strain bacteria. So there is a wealth of information that's credible on social media if you choose wisely. But please look through it all. I'm afraid I'm going to run out of time to get to everything, but probiotics would be the first supplement to take. Lots of good probiotics. I am still a strong proponent on Probulin. That's the one my family is taking now. We have that at the store. Garden of Life, I love their probiotics. They're done from a European yogurt formula that's around 100 years old, still not changed. So Garden of Life, Probulin, you want to take good bacteria, and please avoid so much processed food. Get fresh air, get exercise, drink clean water that's not chlorinated, and don't be afraid of good bugs. The good bugs is what makes the human body and keeps us going. Everyone, I always appreciate the time you spend with me, and have an awesome day. Thank you so much for listening.
You've been listening to Joanne's World of Nutrition. Archives of this program are available on YouTube under WPSL TV. Simply go to WPSLTV.com to our YouTube site where you can find archives of Joanne's World of Nutrition. Brought to you by Nutrition World, downtown Fort Pierce on US 1 between Orange Avenue and Avenue A, directly across from Fort Pierce City Hall. www.joannesnutritionworld.com. This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast, celebrating over 25 years and counting.